"You're my daddy, aren't you?" A question that shattered billionaire James Carver's world right in the lobby of Carver Towers, Chicago. The voice of 4-year-old Lillipure, yet as sharp as a knife, froze James in his tracks, his heart pounding beneath his expensive vest. Her blue eyes searched his, as if probing the secret he'd buried since that Savannah summer 5 years ago. Anna, Lily's mother, panicked and swept her daughter away, but in James stirred both fear and longing. Could he really be this little girl's father? And what secret might change everything? All right, dear viewers, get ready for a story that will leave you speechless. Take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. It's always thrilling to see people joining us from all around the world. The Carver Towers lobby gleamed under crystal chandeliers, every movement wrapped in the hurried yet orderly rhythm of the elite. Steady footsteps echoed on marble, polished dress shoes, tapping in time with polite greetings and half-finished finance conversations. No one noticed the little girl nestled in a brown leather armchair, only a few glances briefly passed her way, disappearing like morning coffee steam. Lily was only 4. She sat curled up, tiny legs swallowed by scuffed boots, her pants wrinkled and her coat so oversized it nearly engulfed her gaunt frame. A coarse wool scarf wrapped her neck like a protective cocoon. Her mother, Anna Reed, had just rocked her to sleep before dashing off to the restroom, unaware that those few minutes would send the world spinning in another direction. When Lily opened her eyes, the soaring ceiling felt like a dreamscape, chandeliers scattering star-like light around her. She rubbed her eyes and blinked at the unfamiliar surroundings. Then her Gazautum Lake blue suddenly fixed on a man striding across the lobby. His gray suit hugged a tall frame, each step measured, as though the marble floor had been laid just for him. Lily didn't know who he was, but something in that silhouette made her heart beat differently, an instinctual summons, raw and unfiltered. Without thought or hesitation, Lily sprang up, covered her mouth with both hands, and let the question burst out like a bolt of lightning. "Are you my daddy?" The tiny voice carried weight. It froze keystrokes at the reception desk. A server halted mid-coffee tray, liquid rippling. A few businessmen paused their conversation and turned. The lobby air stiffened, and at the eye of the storm stood James Carverthay, heir to Carver Holdings, a name splashed across every high-end financial magazine. James had been speaking into his phone with decisive authority when he abruptly froze, as if yanked by an unseen cord. He turned slowly, surveying the luxurious space, and then his gaze locked on Lily. She stood upright, unflinching, unafraid. Those eyes reminded him of eyes he once knew or once tried to forget. Before James could react, hurried footsteps sounded down the hallway. Anna burst out, as if sensing something. Her face went pale, her heart thundering. "Lily!" she cried, rushing to scoop her daughter into her arms. Her voice trembled, panic in her eyes. "You mustn't say that. Lily just dreams too much." Anna forced a smile, struggling to stay calm as all eyes fell on them. No one spoke. Only Anna's ragged breaths, Lily's racing pulse, and James's stunned expression. Anna clutched Lily and hurried toward the glass doors, her steps as though fleeing an unexpected storm. But Lily turned back, her eyes still fixed on the man, her gaze carrying an unanswered question, a fragile, fierce hope that pierced the heart. James could not look away. He stood rooted, phone still in hand, but no longer hearing anything. Lily's words echoed in his mind, not as a child's question, but as a bell waking memories he thought long buried. "Are you my daddy?" That question, simple yet impossible to ignore, wove itself into every empty corner of James's thoughts, and in that instant, something inside him, small and quiet, shifted forever. James Carver sat motionless in the dark brown leather chair, his back barely resting against its edge while his mind raced thousands of miles away. There was no ringing phone, no blinking emails demanding attention, only the night beyond the glass walls, reflecting the city's murky glow, and his silent, contemplative figure. Memories, he thought, long buried, surged up as if someone had pounded on the door of his past. He could not shake the image of those deep blue eyes, Lily's eyes. They were no random coincidence, no fleeting childhood fancy or cruel joke. They yanked him back 5 years to when his life plummeted from the pinnacle of fame into the depths of failure. Savannah, Georgia, a coastal town he'd fled to for anonymity. When Carver Holdings faced its worst crisis since its founding investors turned their backs and the press tore into his name as a cautionary emblem, James needed a place where no one knew him. Savannah's tranquil charm demanded no questions, offered no answers, and he found temporary peace there. And then there was Anna, a young woman working at the Salty Breeze diner, where he'd wandered in on a drizzly afternoon. She didn't over-smile or force conversation. Yet each time she brought his coffee, she remembered he liked it strong and black. By his third visit, his toast arrived charred to his preference without him having to ask. Anna was the kind of person who put you at ease without saying much. James remembered that night clearly. They sat on the porch as the sea breeze whispered. He drank bourbon, she sipped apple wine. Their conversation wasn't profound, but it seeped into him like salt mist through thin fabric. They walked the beach, waves lapping at their feet, and ended the evening in Anna's small apartment. No promises, no future, just two lost souls finding one another briefly. The next morning he left. No note, no glance back. He'd thought it a gentle period to an impulsive chapter, but now, haunted by Lily's eyes, James was no longer certain. He opened his laptop. His fingers tapped the keys slowly but decisively. Anna Reed, a simple name, yet weighted by his memories. The search results appeared an old profile, rarely updated. Then he saw the photo. Anna, older and more worn than 5 years ago, but those eyes were unchanged. She was cradling a little girl with pale brown hair and rosy cheeks, and those eyes. Exactly Lily's eyes, exactly the eyes he saw in the mirror every morning. Each sensation felt like ice shattering in his chest, cold and heavy, neither pure regret nor sheer panic. He grabbed his phone, paused for a moment, then dialed his assistant. "Find me everything on a woman named Anna Reed living in Chicago. I want it all, immediately." His voice was low, controlled, but beneath that calm surged an undercurrent of turmoil. He hung up and stared out at the city, the towering buildings reflecting lights like a universe apart, powerful yet empty. If Lily truly was his daughter, what had he missed in the last 5 years? Her first birthday? Her first daddy? The nights holding her to sleep, soothing her cries? And if it was real, who was he in this story? A man who walked away? A fleeting breeze in their lives? Or the father who must return and face the consequences of choices never truly weighed? He didn't know, but he knew one thing. He could no longer turn away. Not after that question. Not after those eyes. Not after the name Anna Reed resurfaced haunting him, demanding answers. Dear beloved audience, please take a moment to relax or grab a glass of water, then stay tuned for the rest of the story. More unexpected twists await. Comment number 1 if you're enjoying the story, so we know you're still here. James Carver was accustomed to control. Every deal, every figure, every person, he knew exactly where he stood in the grand design. But from the moment the little girl's question rang out in the Carver Towers lobby, something inside him began to crack. Not with drama or fanfare, but slowly like a hairline fracture in tempered glass, imperceptible yet perilous. He did not approach Anna. Not for lack of courage, but because of fear, a nameless dread of shattering the life she had painstakingly built, of seeing reproach in her eyes, and worst of all, the possibility that her question was true. If Lily truly was his daughter, then for 5 years he had forfeited the most sacred experience for any man, fatherhood. Instead, James chose to observe, quietly but sharply. Through discreet reports from his assistant, he learned that Anna lived in an aging apartment in a working-class neighborhood and worked in a small bakery, scraping by. She was still that same Anna from 5 years ago, reserved, diligent, never leaning on anyone. But now, she was not alone. She had Lily, and that knowledge made turning away impossible. One night, when the city slept, he opened his laptop and sat upright, as though facing a strategic council. But instead of an investment plan, he typed an email to Carver Enterprises' HR department. A new position was created: part-time administrative assistant, flexible hours, a salary sufficient to live without worry. The job criteria listed nothing about past debts or a 4-year-old with eerily familiar eyes, but every line was written for that very reason. Anna received the interview invitation one Tuesday morning. She stared at the pristine white envelope as though it came from another world. She had never applied, never dreamed of Carver Enterprises. Questions filled her mind, but Lily's gaze cut through her doubts. The little girl busy drawing the moon, labeling it, "I will be the first astronaut whose mom works in the tallest building in the city." Anna went to the interview. She got the job. And James knew he had done at least one thing right, yet that relief did not last. Each day, through the building's security cameras, he watched Anna leave with Lily, hand in hand. A peaceful tableau, but for James, a constant reminder that he stood outside the boundaries of his own life. He had created the opportunity, yet lacked the courage to step into the life he could have belonged to. Then the small gifts began to appear. No one knew who sent them. A pair of pink sneakers that fit Lily perfectly. A box of colored pencils. A picture book about women astronauts, inscribed simply, "For dreams that take flight." Each gift was James's way of touching his daughter's world without knocking his silent, "Daddy's here," when he could not yet find the words. Anna grew cautious. She was no fool to believe in mere coincidence, yet she had no proof to confront. All she knew was that someone watched, a presence neither invasive nor absent. And James, from the highest floors of Carver Towers, continued to watch in silence. On some evenings, he saw Anna pause on the sidewalk to tie Lily's shoelace. Small, ordinary gestures, but they tightened his chest. Because those everyday moments were things he had never experienced. And so he understood true love is not about grand declarations, but about unnamed, unasked for presence. He was not yet ready to say, "I'm sorry," or "I miss you." But with each passing day, his quiet acts became his offering, awkward, imperfect, yet heartfelt. For in James's heart now, love was no longer something to be possessed, but something to be protected, even from afar. That afternoon, the Chicago sky hung heavy and gray like a damp, burdensome cloth, veiling the city in weariness and tension. The rain wasn't torrential, but persistent, as if each drop carried an unspoken thought. On the cold, wet sidewalk before Carver Towers, Anna hurried along, fingers gripping Lily's hand. The little umbrella trembled in the wind, unsteady like her breath after a long day. James had just stepped out of the glass doors, his shirt collar still unbuttoned. A marathon meeting had left his mind taut as a string, but in that moment, all he saw were two small figures huddled in the rain. Mother and daughter, a simple tableau that halted his stride. Without thinking, he seized the large umbrella from his bodyguard and strode toward them. Time seemed to slow as he reached out and shielded them under the broad canopy, three strangers bound by an unspoken connection. Anna looked up and met his eyes. For an instant, recognition washed across her features, the man from the lobby, the one she had tried to erase from her memory, the man she never wanted Lily to remember. "Thank you," she said softly, layered with meaning, not just gratitude for the umbrella, but a reluctant acknowledgement that she had known him all along. James nodded, voiced nothing, and turned away. His suit was soaked and cold, but it no longer mattered. No downpour could chill him more than the feeling of passing through someone else's life with no place to belong. He had thought he could accept his role, a distant figure silently loving from afar, but that fleeting encounter in the rain shattered every boundary he had erected. And as if fate would not allow unfinished business. The next day, in the cramped archives room on the 6th floor, visited only by those retrieving old files, James and Anna collided by chance. The room was sealed off, its fluorescent lights flickering as if undecided between light and dark. They froze, no time to step aside. Anna clutched her stack of documents, spine rigid. James opened his mouth to speak, but she turned and hurried away, her footsteps echoing down the corridor. He called after her, but she did not stop. Outside, the rain still fell. Cars rushed by, water splashing onto the pavement. Anna walked on, oblivious to the taxi pulling up. In an instant, James sprang forward, yanked her back from the curb, and they crashed onto the sidewalk. The impact jolted him, but his heart stopped at the sight of her rain-drenched face, eyes squeezed shut, shoulders trembling. She began to cry, not in sobs, not in anguish, just silent tears mingling with the rain, as if she had held them back too long. James knelt beside her, the scent of wet asphalt and exhaust in his rushed breath. "Lily," he choked out, "is she my daughter?" Anna opened her eyes. In their reddened depths, there was no longer impulsive anger, but a deep, unhealed wound. "Yes," she whispered, "but you're not worthy to be her father." Each word was a cold blade. James bowed his head, silent. He could not refute, nor excuse himself, because she was right. He had disappeared. No messages, no explanations. A man who once had everything lacked the one thing most fundamental: responsibility. Anna rose. She no longer trembled. No softness remained, only a resolute voice, clear as verdict. "You left, James. When I needed someone at my side, you vanished. I carried our daughter alone, raised her alone, soothed her when she was sick, walked her to school in the cold. While you were busy building your empire, I lived each day counting every penny." She gave him one last look, her eyes no longer angry, but empty, as if her faith had long since died. Then she walked into the rain. James remained kneeling on the pavement in the freezing rain. The answer he had longed for was finally there, but it came with a truth more bitter than any judgment he'd ever faced in a boardroom. And for the first time in his life, James Carver didn't know what to do. No strategy, no plan. Only regret remained, and the sound of receding footsteps, fading into the rain. James made no excuses, no grand promises, no flowery words. He simply chose to stay, not as a father, not under any title, but as a man who had erred and now wished to make amends through quiet persistence. He did not knock on Anna's door, nor send more gifts or leave obvious traces. Instead, he quietly volunteered at the community center where Lily attended her weekly art class. No one there knew he was James Carver, powerful businessman heading an entire corporation. Here, he was simply Uncle James, in rolled-up sleeves, water-stained shoes, and a gentle smile for the children. Lily, like any child, bore no burdens of memory. She quickly took to this man without hesitation. They sat side by side, heads bent over crookedly outlined planets, off-axis stars, and wayward spaceships. Whenever Lily spoke of her dream to fly to Mars, her eyes sparkled as though the universe itself rested in her hands. "I want to be an astronaut, Uncle James. I'll fly so very high." James smiled, his voice low and warm. "And I'll be down here waving to your spaceship." He needed no further words. In every small gesture, the way he bent to hear Lily's thoughts, the swift brush of paint from her cheek, the patient dot-by-dot drawing of each star, he spoke a gentleness more powerful than any apology. Anna observed all of this from a distance, at first with caution, then with confusion, gradually with wonder. She saw him leaning in amid the bustling classroom, vest sleeves damp with paint. She saw him offer his seat to a smaller boy, fetch more paper when Lily tore her first sheet. Not once did he look her way or offer an explanation, only his steady, unassuming presence. One day, Lily presented Anna with a drawing that stopped her cold. The little girl beamed, pointing to 3 figures holding hands under a starry sky, one with braids Lily, one with neatly tied hair her mother, and the tallest figure standing close, a man in a blue shirt with a round, kindly face rendered in colored pencil. "This is me, Mom, and Uncle James." Anna took the crumpled paper to her chest, speechless. A gentle softness uncoiled in her heart. Tears blurred her vision, not from forgiveness, but from undeniable truth. James was no longer on the outside of their story. He was truly here. Then, one Friday afternoon, Anna arrived early to pick up Lily and found James seated on a low stool in the classroom, telling a story to the children. His voice was deep and measured as he described a little girl piloting her spaceship through star storms and black holes to find her way home. Lily sat close, hugging her knees, eyes fixed on him as if he alone understood every star in the universe. The other children giggled when he mimicked rocket launches and fell silent when he spoke of the lost astronaut needing to chart her own return. Anna stood at the door, silent. She did not call out. She merely watched. And for the first time in years, a genuine smile flickered across her lips, unguarded, unforced. It was the smile of someone who has just witnessed something truly tender. James glanced up. Their eyes met. He nodded, no hurry, no expectation. And Anna, for the first time, did not look away. Within her, a wall built of anger and pain had stood for too long. But that day, a small crack appeared. not because James had apologized, but because he had offered nothing but his silent daily presence. And that alone made her begin to believe that perhaps, just perhaps, broken things can be rebuilt through patience and a love truer than any promise, sincerity. Chicago donned the radiant coat of winter. Streets glittered with lights, glass windows fogged in soft haze, and rooftops lay blanketed in thick snow. Christmas arrived not only with a chill seeping through gloves, but with a sense of anticipation, a gentle longing settling in the hearts of those who had believed they were destined to live alone. The community center where Lily took art classes was preparing its annual holiday concert, and this year she had been chosen to sing Silent Night Solo, an honor and a milestone. For Anna, it was more than a school performance. It was the moment her daughter would step into the spotlight, let her voice ring out for the first time before an audience. A moment that made a mother's heart tremble with pride and a touch of fear. Anna arrived early and sat in the front row, hands clenched tightly around the wool scarf Lily always wore to class. She scanned the auditorium, parents bustling, volunteers stringing tinsel on the Christmas tree. The cheer felt both festive and isolating, until her gaze settled on a man standing just behind the wings. James no longer wore the polished suit of his early days. Tonight, he wore a simple gray sweater with rolled-up sleeves, his hair tousled from the falling snow. He leaned down to Lily, adjusting the small lapel mic on her coat, then gently clasped her hand and whispered something that made her beam with confidence. Anna didn't need to hear the words, she knew they were kind. And for the first time, she did not look away. When the stage lights came up, the room fell silent. Lily's voice rose clear, trembling in the first notes, then growing steady and resonant like a candle glowing in a tranquil winter night. Anna could not hold back tears. Not just because her daughter was singing, but because she saw James standing there, nodding along to the song, his eyes shining with a light he had never known before. After the performance, Lily ran to hug Anna, her cheeks flushed with excitement. "Mom, I did it." Then, as if by reflex, she turned and tugged James. "Uncle James, Mommy, take a picture with me." Anna hesitated for a moment, then nodded. The three of them stood close together on the now empty stage. A volunteer raised a camera. As the photo was taken, James turned to Anna with a gentle, unhurried smile. She met his gaze, and for the first time, there was no distance between them. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice blending with the winter breeze, "for staying." James nodded, his voice hoarse with emotion. "Thank you for giving me the chance." That night, the snow continued to fall softly, like a thin quilt laid over the city. In a corner of the park where the Christmas tree shone with lights, the three sat on a wooden bench, wrapped in coats. Lily, tired from her performance, slept against her mother's shoulder, her scarf now loose. James sat beside them, his hand lightly touching Anna's, not forced, not demanding. "I know I can't erase the past," he said, his voice as steady as the winter air, "but I want to build a future, with you and with Lily, if you'll let me." Anna did not answer right away. She looked at Lily's steady breathing, peaceful face, little hand gripping her mother's coat. She had fought so long to keep everything together. But perhaps, she realized, doing it alone was not the only way to protect her child. She leaned her head on his shoulder, whispering so softly it was almost a breath. "Let's start slowly, but I want to try." On Christmas morning, pale sunlight slipped through the curtains. In their cozy apartment, the scent of cinnamon rolls filled the kitchen. James fussed over a hot griddle, an apron hastily tied over his pajamas. Each time he flipped a pancake that splattered imperfectly, Lily giggled, patting the table in delight. Anna leaned in the doorway, quietly watching. She stepped forward, wrapped her arms around James's waist, drawing them close. In that small kitchen, they shared laughter for the first time as a family. Not perfect, but full. Not easy, but genuine. And in that bitter winter, they chose each other not for the past, but for a future they could rewrite through trust, forgiveness, and a love that needed no definition. Life doesn't always grant us a fresh start, but if someone is patient enough to stay, brave enough to make things right, and sincere enough to love, then old cracks can become the very places where light pours in. The story of James, Anna, and Lily is more than a reunion. It is a gentle reminder that forgiveness isn't erasing the pain, but choosing to open your heart and write a new, warmer, more complete chapter. If you have ever stood between the past and the future, hesitated between hurt and healing, I hope this story has touched you somehow to remind you that you are not alone. Thank you for sharing this emotional journey. If this story made you smile, brought tears, or reminded you of someone dear, please leave a comment below. Share with loved ones, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next healing story. From my heart to yours, wherever you are, you matter.